Now back to more Hobby Speaks with our very special guest, Bill Cosby.
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us for our third and final segment with Mr. Bill Cosby. Please, everyone, give him a hand!
Oh, Mr. Hobby, it's a real good thing to be here tonight.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, and now we finally get a chance to discuss my book.
Speaking of your book, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, you see, when I wrote the book, I was going through what you young people would call the midlife crisis. And I began writing the book when I turned 50 years old. I covered many aspects of growing old, such as, memory loss, and the weight gaining, and the dieting, and there's some stuff about growing old, and how it's not as bad as it seems.
Yes, I see. Can you expand a little bit more on the memory loss?
Oh, but of course I can. I wrote the book, silly. But the point that I make about the memory loss is that I've noticed that everybody starts losing the memory at a certain point, but it always starts with the little things, like leaving the glasses on your head and not knowing where you put them. But then it gets to the bigger things, like forgetting what you're talking about in the middle of a sentence. And as you progress through this vicious cycle, you start to stop and you talk to yourself inside your head. You ask yourself, brain, what was I talking about? And your brain says, I don't know, Bill, what were you talking about? And then you just look like a crazy person.
So, I understand that one of the main points in your book is that you have to stop eating the foods that one would say tickle your fancy.
Oh, that is very true, Mr. Guy, and that is actually one of the biggest ideas I discuss throughout the book. It appears several times, quite frequently. Actually, the topic that I discuss the most regarding food and dieting is how as you grow older into your 50s and 60s, you have to give up all the foods and the cakes and the cheesecakes and the puddings and the hoagies that you've grown so fond of as a child and young adult. And you have to retrain yourself. You have to retrain your taste buds to accustom to the mundane foods, the healthy foods, and everything of that nature that just doesn't taste very good, but the doctor says you need it.
Your book sounds very interesting and makes me maybe want to read it, but in contrast to old age and growing old, do you have anything in there about youth and being young?
Well, you see, Mr. Guy, I try to make that equally prominent throughout the chapters of my book because without youth there is no old age. They just go hand in hand. And the main point I make about the young people is that you have to enjoy your younger years, because that's the time when you can actually do the things that you want to do and eat the things you want to eat without worrying. Because you don't know that it's going to catch up with you in the end. So you really have to enjoy being young. It's a gift and a blessing in its own.
Wow, Mr. Bill, that was absolutely riveting. But before you leave us today, can you go in depth about how you wrote the book? I hear there's a lot of humor in your book. Do you use that to portray becoming old in old age in a certain way.
Well, I'm really glad you brought up that point, Mr. TV Holster Guy, because I do use humor and jokes, lots of anecdotes in my book, because the point I'm trying to get across is that there's nothing you can really do about being old. It happens to everybody, so in the end, you just have to make fun of yourself for it. There's nothing else you can do. There's no use in dwelling over all the bad aspects of being old, with the wrinkles and the weight and all that bad stuff. And in the end, you just have to laugh. You just have to laugh it off. And that's really what I was trying to get with my book. The book Time Flies by me. You should go buy it. It's really good.
Well, folks, you heard it from Mr. Bill himself. From his book Time Flies. In stores now. Go buy it. It's great.
As everybody knows, as a man gets older, he